I got to be honest with you. Before a couple weeks ago, I had a message planned for tonight that was, I guess you could call it safe. And I remember my guy Derek telling me, he's been working with me through some stuff, and I remember him telling me, he goes, "I bet you your message changed. I bet you it changes." And he was right. He's been known to prophesy into my life a little bit, and he was right. It changed. I've really been on this journey over about a year now of just overcoming fear. I've recognized that fear is something that has just completely taken me and pulled me in a direction away from the direction that Jesus is pulling me to. And, when you have the Holy Spirit living inside of you, you get conviction when fear is in you. And you know that there's something not right. And I think a lot of us, we just think that we are created to live with fear. That fear is just a part of our lives. That fear is just something that we have to deal with. And I want to tell you guys something right now. That's a lie. It's not who we are. It's not what we were created for. It is a lie. Today is huge for me because this is my first sermon as an ordained pastor. Yeah. Thank you. But I got to tell you that there's this fear thing that's been lingering behind me. It's been lingering in the distance, trying to steal me of my calling. Trying to steal me of being a pastor to you. And you know what? I'm putting my foot down on that. I'm putting my foot down. And I want to call each and every one of you as your pastor, as one of your pastors, sorry, I'm not trying to steal your light, as one of your pastors, to put your foot down tonight with the fear that you have living inside of you, and come with me in this. Have I been delivered from fear completely? No, I have not. I stand here, before I came up here, boy, I'll tell you what, I was fighting. I was fighting. I was praying. I was saying, Holy Spirit, just reveal to me the truth. I know who you are. I've seen you in action. You've performed so many miracles in my life. I believe you are who you say you are. And fear doesn't get to win the day. Fear doesn't get to win the day for me. It doesn't get to win the day for you. I want to take you guys into a verse that's really helped me in this. That's really spoken to me. It's in Matthew 14. And before you put that up there, Zane, hold on a second, as I want to give you guys the backstory on this. And the backstory is that prior to this, Jesus feeds the 5,000. He takes 5 loaves, he takes 2 fish, and he feeds 5,000. He gives this bread, he gives this fish to his disciples, and he asks them to go out and to feed these people. Something that just seemed impossible. He revealed himself to these disciples. And what I call that is a benchmark moment. That was a benchmark moment for the disciples. And my guys all know what a benchmark moment is. I'm a mentor for a lot of guys, and they know what a benchmark moment is. I'm a concrete guy, and when you do concrete, you use a laser to set the forms for the concrete. And sometimes the forms will get hit, the elevation will change, And so you set a pin in the far corner of the job site that nothing can hit it. And if something were to screw up your laser, you can always go back to that benchmark. And you can reset your level. And so just keep that in mind, is that this right here, them feeding the 5,000 was a benchmark moment for them. Stuck in their heart. And so let's go to Matthew 14, verse 22. And it says, immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side. While he dismissed the crowd, after he had to dismiss them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. And I want to stop right there. And I want to remind you that the disciples just had this benchmark moment. They just had this moment of understanding who Jesus was. They just had this moment of seeing him perform miracles. And now that they send him out on this boat, and he comes out to them walking on water, something that they probably weren't anticipating. And what was their default? Their default was fear. They defaulted to fear. How many times does Jesus lead us into a situation and the first thing that comes up is fear in our lives? And that's a misunderstanding of knowing who he is. A misunderstanding of who he is. They just had this benchmark moment. Just had this moment. And they default to fear. Let's go further. It says, but Jesus immediately, wait a minute, I missed something and I got to back up because I can't let this go. As it says in here that the disciples, they thought Jesus was a ghost. And I kind of pondered on that for a second, and I was thinking, they thought he was a ghost. Well, they thought he was a ghost because they were so full of fear that they couldn't even see that Jesus was standing in front of them. And that's what fear does to us, is it blinds us. It manipulates what we're seeing. Right? Let's go on. Let's go on. I like that applause too much. Let's just go on. Okay? Okay. No, it didn't scare me. I didn't default to fear right there. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. He cried out, Lord, save me. Let's stop right there. Jesus calls him out onto the water. He begins to walk out onto the water with him. And what does he begin to focus on but the wind? He takes his eyes off of Jesus and he starts focusing on the wind. You can't even see wind. But you can definitely see. You definitely can see wind move things. And you can definitely see fear move things. But see, we walk out on the water with Jesus. We go on this journey and we start focusing on the storms around us. We start focusing on the circumstances around us, these impossible circumstances that are around us. And trust me, there's impossible circumstances all over out there. Let's keep going. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And then when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, You are the Son of God. I'd have to say that was a benchmark moment too. A couple weeks ago, I remember sitting in my truck, Goose. We call my truck Goose. He's a faithful servant. He's been through 4 mud runs. He's faithful. And I was sitting in Goose, and I always have just these amazing encounters with Jesus. And I remember just beginning to get tired, get worn down from this fear that I've been battling. You know, I didn't just give in to the fear. I've put myself in situations to overcome the fear. You know, I told you that my fear is what I'm doing right now, speaking to you. That's my number one fear, is to come up here on the microphone and speak to you. Yet that's the thing that Jesus is calling me to do. And so I've been on this journey. I've been on this journey in accountability. I've been on this journey in inner healing, and I've put myself in positions to overcome this, right? Preaching at the mission, doing morning devotions for the guys. Derek lets me run his life group. And these physical things that I've put myself into will help me overcome a little. But the true thing that empowers us to overcome the fear is understanding who He is. Understanding the truth. I can do all the sermons I want. But until I understand who He is, and that He is who He says He is, and if He says that He's calling me to be a pastor, then I'm going to be a pastor. That's right. And the fear's not going to tell me. That's right. And so, back to Goose. I'm sitting in Goose. I'm sitting in the cab of my truck, and I'm crying out to God, and I'm saying, I want to overcome this. How do I overcome this fear? How do I overcome this feeling in my stomach? Holy Spirit revealed to me where this was born, where this came to be. And Holy Spirit revealed to me when I was about 8 years old. I was playing minors baseball at Eastside Little League in Chico, California. And for those of you that don't know, I was pretty good at baseball. I grew up to be pretty good at baseball. It actually paid for my college. I was pretty good at it, but 7 or 8 years old, I can remember I wasn't very good at it. I was a late bloomer. I had big old feet, and I was just slow. I had a hard time. But I can remember the coach was out of town, and we had an assistant coach that was filling in that day, and he lived a couple houses down from me. And he actually gave me a ride to the game that day, and he said, "You're going to pitch today." And I said, "Okay." And I was scared. And I can remember when we got to the field, one of the kids on the team, he had heard that I was pitching, and he was upset. And his dad was kind of a loudmouth, and his dad was, trying to convince the coach not to pitch me. And I can remember that hurt that day. I can remember that I just wanted, I guess I just wanted to be a part of the team. I just wanted to be a part of the team. And I remember getting up there and just struggling on the mound, just struggling, and he was throwing a fit. And so I had this, Holy Spirit just revealed this picture to me. And I remember, once again, I go back to Derek and I'm like, man, the Holy Spirit showed this to me. And so I knew that I had to deal with this in inner healing. And so I took it. My wife is incredible. My wife prayed. My wife took me through a prayer and just gave me an opportunity to forgive that boy, forgive his dad. And I remember the coolest thing is that my wife said, "Now I just want you to spend some time with Jesus right now. I just want you to spend some time with Jesus right now, and I want you to listen to what he has to say to you." And I can remember Jesus taking me back up to that mount. And I can remember him saying, "Throw a pitch." And I threw a perfect pitch. And he celebrated with me. And he said, "Get back up there and throw another pitch." And I threw one in the dirt. And he said, "That's okay. Get back up there." And he was cheering me on. And I really got this understanding in that moment that even though there was a fear that was implanted in me that day, that it doesn't get to dictate my outcome any longer. It doesn't get to, thank you. It doesn't get to allow me to have this fear of failure or this performance, this fear of performing. I know who I am. I know that he's got my back. I know that he's right there with me. So when I was standing in the back tonight and I was battling fear, I was battling it. And he took me back to that mound and he said, "I'm right beside you. Let's do this together. You don't have to do this by yourself." And that's what I want you to know tonight. Is that fear that you're hanging on to, that fear that you're holding on to, that fear that you've just thought that you've just come to grips that you're just going to live with it? You don't have to fight it on your own. You don't have to fight it by yourself. He wants to stand right beside you and cheer you on through it. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, it'll probably be tough. Is it going to take some work? Yeah, it's probably going to take some work. Are you going to have to fight for your freedom? Probably so. But you're not doing it alone. And trust me, it's not a dead-end road. You keep your eyes on him, it's not a dead-end road. So I want you guys to do me a favor right now. I want you guys to close your eyes. And I just want you to ask the Holy Spirit to reveal to you any fear that you may have in your heart, any fear that may be controlling you, keeping you from what Jesus is calling you to. Allow him to show that to you. Allow him to reveal that to you. You don't have to be a slave to your fear any longer. You don't have to be punished by your fear any longer. I feel like fear has got a stronghold. And tonight's the night that we put our foot down and we say, fear does no longer have a stronghold on us. Let's do it as a family tonight. Let's do it as a body. Perfect love has no fear. Invite him into this. Give him the invitation. Allow him to speak the truth into your heart right now. Allow him to cheer you on. Allow him to love on you. Allow him to reveal himself to you. He is a good Father. He doesn't want you to carry these burdens. He doesn't want you to drag this fear around any longer. He wants you to be free. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. We just pray for an increase right now. We love you, Jesus. We know that you are exactly who you say you are. We know that you are safe. We know that you can be trusted. I feel like there's a few people still who are resisting this. I invite you in this. You are not alone. He is with you. Partner with him. Give him permission. Give him permission. He is good. He is a good Father. He loves his children. He loves his children.